Namaste, my friend. The last two practices that I gave to you, one is the simple and one is more focused on bringing an end to the suffering that includes the sleep problem, anxiety, duality, and a conflict in the mind. So make it possible in your life that you do these two practices regularly. And if you can do these two practices every day, would be good. But it should be supported by knowledge, understanding, clarity in our life. We have lived our life over 65 years. Now is the time to now is the time to examine our life, how we lived. What are those issues which has been repeated again and again and causing the anxiety mind, angry mind, reactive mind? Don't you think it is important? We have lived our life for more than 60 years. At the age of 20, we become mentally little bit mature. We started understanding the world, but we are still living in the same state. How long? This topic is discussed in detail in Eastern wisdom by great masters. Great masters. They spent years in their forest with contemplation and reflection, and then they came to the conclusion that here is a way to bring an end to the suffering. And that is why I gave a break to those 40 steps, and we are working on the topic suffering to happiness. In the very beginning, when you had those sleep disturbances, I made you understand the three factors which causes this problem. You did the practice, you understood, you applied it, and that problem was over. But that problem may pop up again if we do not understand the root cause of the problem. Root cause. And the root cause of the problem is the delusion in the mind. I would say how and why we suffer in our life. We have been suffering for so long. It is only because of delusion. We need to understand. We need to understand what is delusion, what are the causes of the delusion, and how the delusion causes lot of challenges in our life, in relationship, in personal life, including the sleep disturbances and anxiety problem and other problems. So in a couple of sessions, I will talk about delusion in our daily life, which accumulates the impression in your mind, and these impression takes the form of a thought, and these thoughts are associated with the negative emotions, and these thoughts with the plus the negative emotion creates a desire, and desire for the pleasure and a happiness outside, which ultimately results into lot of challenges in our life. My friends, my friend, we should clearly understand. We should remember, recognize that nothing outside, no time, no location, no relations causes any kind of suffering. We alone are responsible for our happiness and for our suffering. If we discover that happiness is within us, the mind is not falling into the delusion, and we are happy. Now is the time has come. You have been understanding the Eastern wisdom, you have been doing the practice. Now you may have a tremendous faith on the Eastern wisdom, isn't it? So we have to remove those misunderstandings, those false notions, those thoughts, that lifestyle which pops up again and causes problems in your life. The goal of the Eastern wisdom, I've been telling you, is to bring an end to the suffering once and for all. Once and for all. Yes. And at the same time, it awakens us to the real nature of peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. So in the last session, we discussed about the purification of the mind. What is that? Purity of the mind. So in the state of the purity, you have a right thought, right speech, and right action. That is how we interact into the world. Right thought. I have a thought about you. You are a wonderful woman. And then my speech will also move accordingly, and the action will also move accordingly because you are wonderful. So my action is also full of respect, love, and care. Do you understand? Make it very simple, in a very simple way. I have a right thought, I have a right speech, I have a right action at any given time, in a given situation, in a relationship, with person, and the life moves. But to achieve that right thought, right speech, and action, we say it is because of the sato guna. There are three gunas which makes this entire world: sato guna, rajo guna, and tamo guna. I will talk in detail about it, but understand the sato guna means knowledge, clarity, calmness, peace in the mind. Rajo guna, always mind is running. Not only mind is running after the things and objects and relations in the world, it has a deep attachment and obsession and a reaction, a long list. That is the second guna, the Rajoguna. And the Tamoguna, the sleepiness, letharginess, frustration, anger, hesitation, etc., etc. Anger comes into the Rajoguna. So when we think, speak, and write with, again I'm stressing, with the right thought, right speech, right action, we do not allow the impurity of the mind to take over our life at a given situation. Impurity of the mind takes over, and then it distorts my thinking process, my speech, and my action in relationship to the world, and I lose hold of the right knowledge, right speech, right action, and I enter into suffering. So, but before that, there is a delusion. That is what we are trying to understand today. So if there is no right thought, speech, and action, you have some kind of anxiety, fear, duality, even in small issues of your life. The impurity takes over. And I told you, we discussed all. Impurity, the very root cause is the vasana of which we are not aware. They are accumulated impressions, and it pops up due to the outer situation, and it creates an imagined pleasure, pain, fear, etc. And that imagined pain, pleasure, and fear takes the form of a desire. Because, I keep on thinking, so it results into an attachment, and that causes the desire. And I told you, 6 enemies of the mind starts from the desire. Desire results into binding desire results into hesitation, then it results into greed or obsession. That the 3 causes the delusion. Delusion means, a simple meaning of the delusion is that what I see is true is not true. But how? No, you say, for example, mirage. So in the mirage we see the water, isn't it? So it is a delusion or illusion. So when I approach the mirage, that delusion dissolves. Where it dissolves? It is not there. So even saying it dissolves does not make any sense. It does not exist. So when I see the thing exist, but fact is that it does not exist, is known as the delusion. Anxiety, I think the fear, I think it exists, but on examination, on understanding, when I approach near to the fear, it does not exist and I become happy. So there are many delusions. There is the optic delusion. The delusion comes because of the biased mind. The delusion comes because of the anger and the reaction, because of the seeking pleasure from the world outside, and it causes, I discussed in detail, monkey mind, etc., etc. It's a monkey mind, biased mind, angry mind, stressed mind, strong likes and dislikes mind, depressed mind. And the result is the fear, anxiety, duality, and a conflict. You have to listen to this again and again. Examine your life. Don't leave the mirage water. Oh, there is a water there. No, I have to examine. Unexamined life causes lot of problem. Unexamined life leads to wrong thought, wrong speech, wrong action. So our topic today is delusion. We need to understand clearly, where is this delusion at all? We need to understand delusion in many different ways. Why different ways? So that your mind can absorb the knowledge. But why the mind should absorb the knowledge? So that our mind is already constantly moving towards the delusion, and it has some fear and anxiety should go away. When we assimilate that knowledge, then this knowledge alone can remove the delusion, and that is the journey to become a higher seeker. So you're listening to this, and then you examine, you contemplate and reflect, then you apply in daily life, in daily situation. Anytime there is a wrong and negative thought, you start examining that thought and reach to the knowledge to remove the delusion. And that is why I have been saying listening and learning are important. Repeat listening is very important, and at the same time, contemplation and reflection. So you reflect on what you hear, contemplate. That means that you are assimilating the knowledge, and when you assimilate that knowledge, then your intellect pops up the moment there is a wrong thought, wrong idea, including the disturbed sleep that you have had. So it prevents the mind to fall into the delusion. If it falls into delusion, problem will be there. So you are going to be a higher seeker. Why I have such a great belief in you? Because within a week you got rid of the sleep disturbances by understanding. So I have a great belief, faith in you that yes, it is possible for you to become a higher seeker. The higher seeker means what? Higher seeker is not at all disturbed with any form of anxiety, reaction, any outer changes in the world takes place. You are able to maintain the calmness. That calmness will take you to the journey of the self-discovery. And then I will go back to those 40 steps. Let us understand there are three words that we use in Eastern wisdom, and they more or less are related to the delusion. One word is known as the moha, directly translated as delusion. Second word is known as the avidya. Avidya means ignorance, misunderstanding, false notion. And the third word is the maya. In Sanskrit, maya also means the illusion. So we have to understand these three words, why we have created these three words and where they have to be used. So it will make your mind clear. You have to listen, learn, contemplate, reflect, and then you have to apply in your daily life. So when we say moha, the delusion, it means confusion. Sometimes it also means ignorance. It refers to a mental state. Delusion is a mental state that clouds our understanding. So when the understanding is clouded, then you know what happens. There is no perception of the reality. For example, you see the mirage water too far and you say there is definitely a water. Without examination, without understanding. Oh, this guy is really a crazy guy. Oh, this guy has a lot of expectations from me. I can give you hundreds of examples like this. Not only the mirage water, the example is too far. You are sitting on a couch taking a cup of tea and you start thinking about a person and you have a negative thought about it. Why should I waste my time? Why? Think. So there are many examples can be given for the sake of understanding a person who believes that material possessions will bring the lasting happiness in life. I have a $2 million account and I'll be happy. This is a delusion. And examine that why it is a delusion. No, but so first answer comes, obviously if I have the money, I can meet the basic needs. So meeting the basic needs cannot lead you to the happiness. Did you understand? The money can buy everything except the health and the happiness. Money can help me manage my diseases, but money cannot buy the health. Money cannot buy the peace. Money cannot buy the happiness. Otherwise, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos will have a permanent state of the happiness in their life. Are you understanding that? So what happens? It does not mean that I have to leave the money. I have to close the account. It simply means that excessive dependence attachment and obsession to the money is not fair enough. It makes the mind impure. I have a negative thought, speech, and action, and that causes the delusion. Our topic is what is delusion, how the delusion causes the suffering. We are going to the root. Someone who is convinced that their way of thinking is the only correct one, refusing to consider other perspective. I have a wonderful young guy who had some stomach pain. He went to the doctor, investigated everything, and the doctor said that you don't have any problem at all. And at the same time, he said you are too much obsessed with any sensation that takes place in the belly and around the belly, which you take it as a pain. So it's basically a psychological problem. You don't have any digestive problem. So he approached me and he told me this is what the doctor said. So doctor helped me to understand this individual. For the last 10 sessions, because of the deluded thought that I have something, I'm so young, and at this young age I have this problem. What should I do? I'm totally frustrated. Nobody understands me. He is not ready to listen. So sometimes our perception is so much deluded. Our thought process deludes that right perception. And today, he said, now now what to do. I have accepted this and I've started doing your practice. And I feel now the relaxation has come. You should have learnt in the very first session. Delusion is very hard to remove by citing this example. So you have to listen, constantly contemplate, committed to change your life. Then you become a higher seeker, and higher seeker can easily remove any kind of delusion in the world. An individual who fails to recognize the impermanence of life and clings to the idea of a fixed and unchanging self. What it means? Whatever you see, feel, hear, touch, taste, can you tell me anything which is permanent here in this world? That is a very higher level, subtle level of delusion. Not higher, I would say very subtle. And it takes time for the seeker to remove that delusion. Anything that is changing, anything that mind knows through this sense organ, the objects, people, relationship, things, constantly changing, and what is changing is not permanent. So when the mind fixes its ideas, its notion, it creates a notion, what is changing is not changing. I fall into the delusion. It's very challenging to remove it. There is another delusion. We think that other is responsible for our pain and happiness. Situation, people, person, relationship. My friend, you have to examine. You have to sit down every day in the evening before you go to sleep for 15 minutes. You have to recall each and every event that causes you some kind of anxiety, stress, duality, fear, etc. And you write it down and then you examine that particular event and see how the delusion has cause this pain and discomfort in your life. This should be done minimum for 3 to 4 weeks. The time will come, your mind will get a new habit of recognizing that delusion. Young people have other kinds of delusion. What is that? They get deeply attached to the romantic partner, believing that they are the sole source of their happiness, and they get frustrated, experiencing intense emotional pain when the relationship ends. We get infatuated with the idea of the fame and the success, pursuing these goals relentlessly. Delusion. I gave you many examples. So the more and more you contemplate and reflect, you understand the definition of the delusion, and then you apply in your daily life, and especially when your mind experiences some discomfort, unease, anxiety, fear, obsession, frustration, etc. Then you have to explore there. They are like a mirage water. If you don't approach and examine it, you cannot get out of the delusion, my dear friend. So this delusion is like a veil, obscures the truth. Delusion, mirage water, is like a veil that obscures the truth. Oh, this guy is a crazy, I'm totally obsessed. This guy, I don't want to talk. So that is a delusion, is like a veil that obscures the truth about that person. What I have to do if the guy is so much crazy? Okay, no problem. When he comes in front of me, I will deal with the right thought, speech, and action, and done. Delusion prevents me to see the reality. And when you don't see the reality, obviously you are in delusion. It is like a fog that envelops the mind, making difficult to navigate through the right thought, speech, and action. We are just talking what are the causes, the root cause, why the delusion takes place. And once we remove through the contemplation and reflection, you become the higher seeker. We'll go back to those 40 steps. Simple example of the delusion I gave, mirage in a desert appearing real, enticing, but ultimately proving to be an illusion. I'm focusing on the defining, understand by different examples, the 3 words. One word is moha, roughly translated into English as a delusion. Second word is the avidya. Avidya is also related to delusion. That is why I chose the 3 words. Avidya literally means ignorance. Ignorance really means lack of knowledge. I know, pay attention. I know that I do not know permanent peace, permanent happiness are within me. I know that I don't know permanent happiness is my nature. Are you getting it? So it's a lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. It's a fundamental misunderstanding we are living with since our birth. That is why we say it is a fundamental ignorance. Examples. We should understand by example. So why I mistake, my intellect and the mind mistake temporary as permanent. Youth and the beauty will last forever. My body will never become sick. Then it is better than it. Body should be like a stone. At least the stone, even the stone changes. Health and the sickness are the dynamic states of the reality. So if there are challenges, I will deal with those challenges. But to keep that misunderstanding is causing the ignorance. I identify ego, false sense of the self, other than recognizing my true nature. That is also comes under ignorance, my friend, failing to understand the law of cause and effect. Any action that you do, it has a reaction. So action is the cause, reaction is the effect. I'm talking to you out of respect, out of care. So there is a reciprocal response. But if I'm talking with a reaction, anger, and hesitation, you're not going to tolerate forever. Did you understand? So it means I resolve myself that I'm not going to talk in anger and duality and a reaction at any point of time. But how that will take place? By removing the delusion. By removing the delusion. And we are understanding the second word. So avidya, ignorance, is also very near to the delusion. Because of the ignorance, I live in the delusion, that you can say. Believing that happiness and fulfillment can be found in external objects, situation, people, time, relations, birthday, etc., etc., it is not there. I engage in actions based on false belief and misperception. Causes a lot of challenges in life. So you see that one point, we are ourselves responsible for our stress, anxiety, duality, pain, including also the happiness. How to understand this ignorance again in a different way? There is a dark room in which you enter. Your foot strikes with stumbles and bumps into the objects, unaware of the real nature and the position. So ignorance is just entering into a dark room, unknown gray area. My mind starts thinking about it. Don't think too much. Don't think too much. Yes, think too much about the Eastern wisdom, these principles, because it helps you to move with the cause and effect. Oh, that guy is so good. That guy is crazy. No, mind, stop this. Not interested in the biography of any person in the world, except I have to understand my own mind. Are you getting it? Ignorance. It is like a person wearing the colored glasses, perceiving the world through the distorted lens. Person comes in front of me, I have a colored glass. That guy seems to be crazy and I don't want to talk to this guy. Oh, and another glass. This guy is so good. And after a few weeks you find he also cheated you. So I have to remove that colored glasses, the colored glasses of attachment, of detachment, of likes and dislikes, of reaction, of, of obsession. These are the colored glasses. That causes the ignorance. And that is also, ignorance is due to the delusion that we have already understood. Then there is a third word that is known as the Maya in Sanskrit. You might have heard the word Maya. Maya. Where is Maya? Maya in a Sanskrit term meaning illusion. The power that creates the illusion in this world. That is the literal meaning, very deeper meaning. I'm repeating it. The power that creates the illusion of the phenomenal world. It is a veil that conceals the true nature of the reality and projects something else. It has an imagined projection. Maya is a cosmic illusion. Just remember these words, and then don't worry, I'll make you understand. The appearance of the world is solid and permanent. World is solid and permanent. My house will remain permanent. My bank account will remain permanent. My body will remain permanent. So when I have that wrong notion and I feed that wrong notion by my thought, speech, and action, it is Maya, because body is constantly changing. Money means an exchange. We have added X plus change, exchange. Health, change. No one lives in 100% health and sickness. But our real nature is 100% healthy. So when I am settled in that complete health, all these changes I can endure, I can balance, I can remove it. Maya. Maya. Whenever we experience the duality, that is the greatest. What is that duality? Pleasure and the pain, likes and dislikes, good and the bad, attachment and aversion. We are in the spell of Maya, the illusion. Oh, so does it mean that attachment, detachment do not exist? No, that we have to inquire. Hold on. I don't want to deviate from to the different topic. Maya is like a magician trick, creating the illusion of something that appears real but is ultimately unreal. So more or less, it is related to, that is why it is very close to the delusion. Delusion in personal life and the Maya in the worldly life. It is like a dream. It is like a dream when events and experiences seem vivid and real. When you are experiencing the dream, you see, oh, it's real. The dreamer perceives that it is real and genuine while dreaming, as long as you are dreaming. And once you wake up, dream is gone. You need to understand. Why I picked up the topic, I think you should appreciate that suffering. And then I picked up the impurity of the mind, then we went into the root cause of that suffering. And then we wanted to know why and how this suffering is caused in our life. So I used the word delusion. And then we came down, there is a delusion word. There is an illusion which is known as the Maya. And the third word which is the ignorance. So I have to examine my life with these three words. When and how I entered into the delusion, illusion, or the ignorance. Why I have to examine? In order to remove this delusion. But why to remove this delusion? When you remove the delusion through your intellectual understanding, 90% of your mental and the emotional challenges, they drop and dissolve completely. Because the main reason is these three factors. So the delusion affects all individuals who are not yet awakened or who has not removed ignorance to become a higher seeker, which will help you to remove that ignorance. That is why we are trying to understand. So my friend, moha or delusion is a mental state. It is a mental state. So what is mental state? Thought, speech, and action. So that thought, speech, and action is characterized by confusion, attachment, false perception. Did you get it? Delusion arises when is caught up in the illusion of material world and the ego. We'll talk about that. What is that ego? The delusion exists within the mind. Remember this, delusion, ignorance, everything exists in the mind and influences my thought, my emotion, my action. That is why it started. Right thought, right speech, and right action is stripped away from the mind by the delusion. Delusion occurs due to lack of spiritual knowledge, and this is what the spiritual knowledge we are learning. Well, in a nutshell, we are understanding. So the delusion manifests through attachment to the worldly possessions, expectations, obsession, attachment or aversion, relationship and experience, as well as through the inability to see. I don't see what is right. I live in misunderstanding. I live in ignorance. See, they are very close to one another. When I say avidya or ignorance, this ignorance affects every being who have not yet attained the wisdom or the enlightenment, and we are working towards it. Ignorance is the fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of the reality. Ignorance resides in the mind again, like the delusion resides in the mind. So ignorance and the delusion both dwells in. It is the fundamental ignorance that also results into delusion, and a common delusion we have already experienced. So ignorance dwells in the mind and influences my perception, my thought, my action in my daily life. Again, the same thing. Ignorance and the delusion are due to the lack of understanding of our real nature. When I understand my real nature is of the nature of permanent happiness, when I'm living into that, where comes the question of anxiety, anger, duality? And the same thing more or less with the Maya. Maya means illusion. So Maya also affects all beings who are not yet reached to that higher state of wisdom. So you see fundamental ignorance, there is a cosmic illusion, there is a daily illusion. That is what the three words represent. And all the three causes lot of suffering in your life. What is delusion? Maya veils the true nature of the reality, creates the appearance of multiplicity and separation. Understanding is required. Maya, the illusion, ignorance, the vidya, and moha, the delusion. And I told you that whenever I have a desire and I make an effort towards fulfillment of that desire, which includes the fulfillment of seeking peace and happiness from the world outside. You go and prepare a cup of tea in your kitchen. We are not talking of that because you never think this coffee will make me truly happy. So that obsession is not there, that misperception is not there. So need is different when the desire does not have an element of craving for happiness from that object, that person, that relationship. It's okay, that desire, you make an effort, that desire does not cause hesitation and obsession, and which three becomes the delusion. So remember this. Always you have to examine your life every day for 10 to 15 minutes. So how to examine that life? Easy. At least you sit for 10-15 minutes every day. And simply, why it is easy? You find out those events, incidents of anxiety, duality, pressure, some kind of a stress, or some reaction. You just note it down. Then pick up every event and then examine that what makes you anxious, reactive, etc., etc. You just think in your mind. Find out the root cause. And if the root cause points to your mind, you have found the delusion. And if you cannot, write to me, tell me, I'm there. I'm always there. So, in other words, you can say all the three words, moha, delusion, ignorance, vidya, and maya, the cosmic illusion. In all the three, uh, they delude the mind, they live in the mind. And when they live in the mind constantly, repeatedly, they create a mistaken identity. I identify, I identify myself with the temporary aspects of the existence. Mistaken identity. And when we have a mistaken identity, it is always supported by the fear, anxiety, duality, and a conflict. So I claim that mistaken identity is the real identity. I'm your mother. How dare you say this? Calm down. No doubt everyone knows that. Just I'm telling an example. You are a mother. But the ego is identifying with the motherhood, and when the ego supports that identification and you express this thought to anyone, people will not accept you. Mistaken identity. Hey, you spend people spend 5 hours in front of the mirror to check how beautiful they are. And then they go to the office. As if their office will recognize their physical appearance instead of their work and the performance. What is going to happen? Think of it. Mistaken identity. I have to recognize it at every level in our life. Then there is an error in perception. I perceive, I add projection. It becomes an error in perception. I see the sunlight and then I wear the glasses of red color and I see, oh, sun is in red. Error in perception. I project. Meet someone, after talking to 5 minutes, the mind starts projecting. What a wonderful person. And after a few meetings, the guy seems to prove otherwise. Error in perception. Why it comes? Because my mind, because of the delusion, it projects something else. Also the suffering, mental and emotional suffering, are caused by the delusion and the ego and the attachment and aversion. Emotional dependence. These attitude of the mind causes the delusion. Emotional dependence. I don't live in the emotional freedom. Illusion I have already explained you. Lack of awareness of reality. I feel the sense of emptiness and a hollowness within because I did not find the peace within. I stick to unreal, projected ideas. I act in foolishness. So these are the examples of unexamined life which causes the delusion. Acting or believing in ways that are contrary to the wisdom and understanding due to the influence of the delusion. A false impression or the belief, I continue to live with that false impression and the belief, and that causes a lot of challenges in our life. So if I summarize today's talk to you, delusion prevents the realization of my true nature, which is peace and happiness. So remember this, assimilate, digest this understanding, this statement. What it means, the delusion prevents the realization of my peace, happiness, love within me. Okay, I understood it. How do you understand it? So you examine every day 10 to 15 minutes, you prepare a note, and you have seen the 5 incidents that took place today which causes you the anxiety and the reaction. Instantly go to those incidents, contemplate and reflect and think of it. What caused me this anger, anxiety and reaction? So in the background you already have an understanding. It is because of the delusion. So when you start exploring, reflecting on it, you will remove the delusion and you are happy. Oh, okay, I should not behave like this next moment. Delusion is a form of ignorance and delusion that veils the true nature of the reality. Anytime any moment I am unhappy, I'm agitated, I feel lonely, I feel depressed, I feel anxiety, my mind is reacting, it is thinking of negative emotions, it is because of the delusion. And once you recognize, you make yourself understand. Tell the mind, oh, you have anxiety, you have fear, okay. Let me sit down and find out what is the cause. What is the cause? Root cause. Root cause is the delusion, but you understand the process by asking these questions to yourself. Delusion on one side, knowledge and the wisdom on the other side. They are mutually exclusive in the mind. They both live in the mind. The delusion lives in the mind, you put the wisdom, delusion is gone. That is what I'm talking about. Delusion is always absent in the presence of the wisdom. Wisdom is always absent in the presence of the delusion. That needs to be clearly understood. Moha, delusion, is not the lack of worldly knowledge. We know. You know your profession, you have been successful in your profession. No, we are not talking of that. It's a lack of worldly knowledge. It is a misunderstanding what is real and unreal. So when we are in the spell of the delusion, it prevents you to find what is real, and the mind keeps on thinking in a negative way, and which causes the unending suffering in your life. You can also say the function of this delusion is covering up. You have heard the word covering up. It it covers up our real nature. So when it already covered the real nature, then it is going to create challenges in our life. It will definitely cause problems. It prevents the realization of the real self. Means peace, happiness, love, wisdom. It is ignorance. Same delusion is ignorance. It is delusion. It covers the true nature of the reality. How to remove that? By understanding, by contemplation, by reflection. Are you getting it? So you can also say that delusion is a form of ignorance and illusion that veils the true nature. But we have been understanding what we have been understanding. Initially, we understood the impurity of the mind. We understood the impure states of the mind. From the outer manifestation, we are going up. Impure states of the mind is caused by the six enemies present in the mind. So these six enemies are present in the mind, but from where they has come? Because of their attachment and aversion. From where the attachment and aversion has come? It has come because of sankalpa and the vikalpa. Imagine pleasure or pain. From where it has come, it has popped up in the mind because of the past impressions. And those past impressions, from where it has come. So we say the three words. What the three words? The delusion, illusion, and the ignorance. My friend, listen to it again and again. And when you listen to it again, you have to contemplate and reflect. And the best ways to contemplate and reflect is spend 15 minutes only before sleeping Find out. List these incidents, this event, this relationship caused me anxiety, duality, and a conflict, and then go and contemplate. Why? Why? You already know in the background it is because of delusion. But why you are asking, you understand the process. Understand the very process. So when you understand the process, you go very closer to the root cause of the delusion. Mirage water is here and you are here. And you approach, and mirage water is gone. Where it is gone, we don't want to know. We already got rid of the delusion.